What's up, metal and heavy music fans? I'm here with the band Warm Gadget, and these are our picks for the best industrial metal albums. You all just want to kick it off with your first pick?
Yeah, for sure. I think first pick, I'm going to have to go with the Mighty Godflesh. Probably just going to, I could go with any one of them because they're all so good. They're all so solid, but I'm just going to go with Pure. It was the one the full length that came out after Street Cleaner, because pretty much everyone picks Street Cleaner for some reason, which is great. But I want to give Pure some love.
What in particular do you like about that album so much?
I feel like it's just a little tighter sounding. Like the production's a little better. Like they still kept going really heavy, but I just feel like his guitar tone and his drum tones and everything are just sound cleaner and crisp, and it's just heavy. It's like really, really heavy like Street Cleaner, but just a little cleaner, like not quite as rough around the edges.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, they were my introduction to kind of the more just like that whole... It's funny because Street Cleaner was on my list, but I'm going to swap it out for something else now. But it's just like got this like sludgy, like churning sound to it. That's just like different from a lot of other industrial bands too.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
Pummeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. It's just raunchy. All right. My first pick, I'm going to go with, and this gets in the conversation we were having too about like how some stuff is like borderline, and I hear people argue with certain bands whether they're industrial metal, like or completely something different. But we got to have Ministry on here, and my personal favorite is Psalm 69. I just think that's like the most like complete and consistent of all of their albums, and even though it's like consistent, it also has like so much diversity to it too. Like it's got your kind of like weirder, more experimental tracks, your more like just atmospheric moments, but then it's also got like just your straight up stuff kind of going back to their earlier albums, and then you get, you know, the dig dang dog dig diggy just all dig dong day. Like it's just all over the place, yet somehow it all comes together in the end.
That was one of my picks, was Psalm 69, and to me, if it just on a comparative basis, I believe that is Ministry's Black Album.
That's a good way of putting it.
You know, they had their stuff before that, but I agree with you 100%. Just and like the conversation that was being had, is it industrial? Is it metal? Some of those riffs are just straight thrash metal riffs.
Totally.
But then you've got that pounding industrial pulse behind it, and it's a great album.
Yeah. It's like the perfect balance, because some of their later albums, like he went a little bit, I feel like, too hard on kind of the thrash elements, and it doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. But I love the union of those like thrashy riffs with, like you said, just that like just pounding methodical industrial percussion.
Yeah, he went a little more like almost like I hear some Melvin's influence or something going on, like in like Filth Pig and stuff.
Yeah. Like
he got away from the program drums and was just going sludgier, which is cool, but he kind of lost that that industrial vibe that I liked.
Yeah, different energy. I like Filth Pig, but I don't like it as much as the faster, earlier stuff.
Yeah, me neither.
Filth Pig is Saint Anger.
No. No, I don't know. I think there's some other contenders in their discography for Saint Anger, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they've got 4 or 5 Saint Angers.
Yeah. For me...
yeah, in the mid to late 2000s.
For me, Relapse is their Saint Anger. I'm not a particular fan of that album.
No, I'm not either. I don't know. Like, what happened there?
Yeah, it's just like really edgy. Like, I don't even know. Your next pick. What's your next one?
You know, I'm going to have to go, since we're combining both ours, I'm going to throw in Strapping Young Lad's City.
Definitely.
Because it's just so freaking heavy. And, I mean, it's almost like Fear Factory record, because like they always shared band members too. But that thing is so gnarly. Like, just all the stuff he's doing, like the programming and the synths, and like, even if you don't like that album, it's kind of hard to deny like how cool it is and crazy. Like nothing, I never, you know, and it came out in like the 90s. Like that thing is gnarly. So I feel like I kind of had to put that on, like put strapping on there for that one because like an industrial beast, I think.
Yeah, I always kick myself because I
Devin
went
Townsend, he's nuts.
yeah, I went to the first Sounds of the Underground tour, and Strapping Young Lad was playing, and I didn't watch them because I like wasn't really like I just didn't really
Oh,
like listen to them at the time, and that's the only time I've like seen them anywhere, and I'm just like, man, what a missed opportunity because I think that was like not long before they disbanded, and he started just really focusing in on his solo stuff. So should have paid attention. My next pick is going more overtly metal here with Rammstein and Mutter, which I feel like most people agree is like one of their best albums. I think some people in a list like this might go with Sehnsucht or even Herzeleid potentially, but I just feel like Mutter is just like it's kind of same as Psalm 69 in a way, where it's a great showcase of like their more atmospheric elements. They're more just like straightforward stuff like Feuer frei, and just a lot of like really great songwriting, a lot of great lyrics, a lot of diversity in different sort of like moods too. You got some of your more like sad sounding stuff, but like still always with great like keyboard lines and guitar lines, and just all around great album, I think.
yeah, nice. I need to give them more of a shot and like listen to them more because I have some friends that like really into them. I don't know why, like I just haven't come around. I just need to give them a good listen. And
yeah, you should. They're a great time. Another band I would love
I've heard
to
their
see
show is
live
crazy too.
Yeah, exactly. Like that would be. They're on my bucket list for sure, and yeah, just all around great band, very talented, make awesome music.
Yeah, his guitar tone is really good too, I have to say.
Yeah,
something about his crunch and his tone, and he's been developing like a lot of software like plugins for guitar tone and stuff because his tone is so good. So yeah, I need to dive in there more.
What's your next pick?
I think we're gonna go with probably, I know it's an EP, but we're both really, we love the Broken EP, you know.
It's a great EP.
Nine Inch Nails. It's so gritty and heavy, and I think, yeah, if I was going to do my own list, I was going to put the Fragile on there because I just really like that one. It's like
that's my
there's so much cool stuff going on. I feel like it was just really like it just artistically it's so good, but like Tim picked Broken, and I can't deny that either. Like it's just heavy, and it's kind of got everything I like. You know, I like that era of them, so like I think we'll go with that one. It's just so good.
Yeah. It really is. And Trent even like regularly counts it like almost as a full album basically when he describes the discography too, and I think for good reason. Like it's a transitional album, but it's also just like it's great to throw on by itself between you've got like Happiness and Slavery, and then you've got Wish, and just some, like you said, just heavy. Super heavy, super fun.
Yeah. It's fast too at times, just like cool riffs, and the drums on there sound so good. Like his production too for that time, like especially coming out right after like Hate Machine, like it's like, what? This is the same band? Like this is so much heavier, you know? And I feel like sometimes people are still trying to rip that sound off to this day.
Oh, totally. I mean, if you're gonna rip off the best, I guess.
Yeah. I'd still like to try to get some of those drum sounds that he was getting on that one.
Yeah.
Honestly. What's your third?
All right. I was going to go with the Downward Spiral, so I'm going to switch it up again just to keep things interesting. And I guess we'll throw in another pretty overtly metal pick here with Static X and Wisconsin Death Trip. I know they're a little bit later the game. They, some people have different opinions about them, but I love this album. Like it is just, and it's so unique sounding too. Like Wayne just has like a really weird voice and a great look. Rest in peace. And his guitar sound, like everything just comes together and I love the sense of humor to it too. Like it's from the get-go, they didn't take themselves too seriously, and it just makes for like an album that makes you bang your head but also like laugh out loud more than once. But But then also has
Yeah.
some like weirder moments too. Like I forget the name of the song, but there's that one that has that like weird, like kind of trancey sound that gets broken up by the heavier groovy sections, and I love that song. Like I just go nuts every time I hear that.
Yeah. I don't know why people hate on them, because I mean maybe it was the look and the new metal thing, but they were so ridiculously good and tight, and it's heavy too. Like even like that, there's a deeper cut on there. Like I think it's later, like the trance is the motion or
That's
something
the
like
one.
that. Like
That's the
that
one.
song
Yeah.
rules.
I fucking love
Like
that song.
I love that song.
Yeah.
It's so good, and yeah, I mean I don't know why people hate on them, because they really are good. But it's just probably the look and the and all that, the new metal association maybe. But I actually almost picked Machine.
Oh, nice.
To be honest with you, because it gets good and heavy too. I was thinking about it. So
the best industrial
yeah,
metal album with a song about pooping on it.
Yeah, they definitely didn't take themselves that seriously. But I watched a video one time on the making of that album with with their producer, and I forget his name, but he's a pretty big producer. But he was so worried when he heard the demos that they had made, that when they got the budget from the label, like he was like, I don't know how I can make this sound better. Their demos were so good. He was like, you could put it out
awesome.
Just the way it is right now. It's that good. He was like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it sound better. And he kind of did. He's like, we eventually did make it better. But he's like, that's how good these guys were, all four of them.
Yeah.
They were just so tight and knew what they were doing. Like they could have put out the freaking demo.
I could see that. Yeah, they just came out strong right out of the gate, and then they had a bit of a lull kind of mid-career where I didn't like what they were putting out as much, but then they kind of rallied with Cannibal is a really sick album too. Like that's almost like another Wisconsin Death Trip, like at least going back to that same type of energy. So they still had it kind of all the way up. I'm curious what they're going to do, because I hear they're going to put out like a new album without Wayne, and I just don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I heard about that. I have a friend that's really, really picky, and he likes them, and he was telling me that, believe it or not, it's really, really good.
Okay.
Is what he said.
Okay. I'll be interested.
He said it was. He said they were doing it justice, and he's, so I need to give it a listen.
Yeah. All right. What's your next one?
I think I'm gonna go with Killing Joke, Pandemonium, because I feel like those guys don't get enough love, and I like that band. Like they're not that heavy, but their guitar tones and his yelling, and I feel like they still kind of hit on that point on that album, and I just really love that one. So I feel like I want to put it on the list, because I don't know, I think that they deserve more love, because they're super solid all the time.
Yeah, I feel like I hear more bands now like citing them as a reference to, like, just more recently, and I hear some of their influence coming through in various different genres too. So yeah, it's nice to see them get more recognition. They weren't a band that I like ever fully delved into, but it's one that, like, just like you were saying with Rammstein, I just need to spend more time with it. But I've always enjoyed what I've heard, and I dig the bands that are coming out now that are referencing them.
Yeah, they are good, and they have a lot of that kind of post-punk vibe for sure. Like they're, but they were always using like programmed drums and samples and loops, and then their guitar player always had that like cool heavy crunch to his guitar all the time. Yeah. So I just feel like that one's a really good one. You can't go wrong with the self-titled one that Dave Grohl played all the drums on, the acoustic drums. Like that one's a really solid album too, so that's a good starting point. But they've been around since the early 80s, so there's a lot to like dive into. But I feel like for me it's like either Pandemonium or the self-titled one is so good too.
Sure. I'll take a little quick pause here. I mean, of the albums that we've mentioned and bands, like which one do you feel like influences Warm Gadget the most right now?
Ministry's up there, because I think that's Tim and I definitely have. We like a lot of the same stuff, but we also I'm a little bit more of a metal guy, and I would say you probably are. You don't listen to as much metal as I do.
I don't think I listen to as much metal or as much industrial as you do.
Yeah. He's I don't know. You listen to a lot of kind of post-punk stuff, noisy stuff. He's a big Jesus Lizard fan, we're both big Patton fans of all his projects, so we've always been Patton nerds. But we also like, big Melvins fans. Helmet is a big one for me. Is like, as far as guitar playing goes, like I kind of learned how to play guitar playing to Helmet records.
Those Helmet riffs are just so much fun to play.
That comes out in my guitar playing for sure. But yeah, I can't. Helmet's just a big one for me and both of us, I think, in this one for sure. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the industrial stuff, I really love Skinny Puppy too. So that kind of comes out when I like sitting at a keyboard and like programming drums and doing all electronic stuff. That I always, like Too Dark Park is just my favorite by them. So they kind of creep in there. I do like some of the older Nine Inch Nails stuff. Obviously, like Ministry is a big one, but like it's a bunch of new ones too. I wasn't gonna put them on the list because they're not necessarily my favorites, but there's some really new stuff that's been really exciting to me, like Youth Code and I do like Health, their production style. I listen to those guys a lot because I just really like, since I do all the production, I kind of am always trying to pay attention to new production, and I really like their production. I like the Youth Code sound, even like Three Teeth, even though I'm not like a big fan of them, I do like their slick production sound. So I kind of strive for that. So I do listen to them a fair amount.
Did that answer your last one question?
Yeah, sorry.
No,
rambling.
No, that was great. That was awesome. And yeah, Three Teeth is honestly one of my favorite kind of newer acts. And Alexis is super nice too. Like he came on back when I barely had any subscribers and was just like the nicest guy and told me so many cool stories. And then
nice.
And then I think we've talked about Author and Punisher before too. Like there's a lot of really cool kind of just exciting, more recent stuff. But this is a good segue though, because my next pick is another group that often seems to bring up the argument of, are they industrial metal? I tend to think of them as more just straight up industrial, but I purposely picked an album that is more on the metal side, and so I'm going to go with Skinny Puppy. And even though Too Dark Park is my favorite album from them, I'm going to go with Rabies, because that's obviously got Jorgensen doing guitars on it, which kind of ramps up the metal side of things. And it's just a fun album. It was the second album I heard from them, and it's just got a lot of great jams. I particularly enjoy, there's an alternate version of it with Kevin Key's production that I think is a little stronger because it brings the keys forwards a lot more. Because Jorgensen like really washed out everything with his guitars. And don't get me wrong, the guitars on it are great, but like there were some really awesome synth parts that totally get buried in his mix. So I always encourage people to try to seek out the Kevin Key version of that album. But it's just all around it's a bop, as they say.
Yeah, I heard about that there's two different versions of that because he wasn't happy with Jorgensen kind of taking too much control. I need to see if I could find it and hear it, but because Rabies is excellent. You picked the fifth because I kind of ran more.
This isn't even on the list, but since we, as it was said earlier, I thought we were going more industrial, and now we're leaning more metal. Now we didn't discuss this at all. I'm going to say, as far as metal and still blending some industrial, it's going to be a little bit debatable, but I'm going to say Astro Creep 2000.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I considered that. I like that. Great stuff.
It was a huge record, and really from start to finish, it's a kick-ass album. I think that was, potentially even the Black Album for White Zombie.
Yeah, it kind of was. And sort of a good segue into the Rob Zombie stuff, too.
It's a fun album.
Yeah, Astro Creep had More Human Than Human, Blood Milk and Sky.
I love Blood Milk and Sky.
Bunch of other ones. It just had more keys, and it seemed like it had more programming altogether than, say, Los Exorcisto.
Oh, it has Blur the Technicolor on it, too, which is another one of my
Blur the Technicolor.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Creature of the Wheel. It's just a ton of great songs. Cool. And we are both horror nerds, so, even as cartoony and as silly as it could be, I think, again, I can't speak for Colton, but for me, it appealed a lot to the whole dark circusy, just, you know, sometimes you feel like you're walking into an alley and you might get stabbed by a hobo with a bottle.
That's the vibe you want on a zombie album for sure. All right, I think for my last pick, and I was kind of surprised at how much argument I get over this one, because I feel like it's brought up constantly. If you even like Google like industrial metal albums, it's commonly like one of the top results. But I'll go with Demanufacture from Fear Factory.
Yeah.
Just to not talk about thrash riffs. I mean, that one's just like packed with just like absolutely ferocious guitars. And then that album in particular still has like that. If you want to argue whether or not Fear Factory is an industrial metal band, I feel like that's maybe a conversation. But this album in particular like has all the hallmarks, and it's got the more kind of like between the concept of like the, you know, fusing kind of like technology and humanity. I mean, that feels just on its own very kind of industrial just by nature. And then, you know, the music itself and the percussion on that album in particular just has all those strong notes. But it's funny, like I get people arguing with me. Even in like, there's like a big Fear Factory group, and they're like, it's not industrial metal, it's cyber metal, and like they went on with all this stuff. And and Dino's even in the group, and he chimes in, and he can be, you know, kind of a dick sometimes too. But you know what? Great album.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that he can be. I mean, no, I agree with you, because that was actually on one of my earlier lists too. That one was on there because they were so influenced by Godflesh, and they were kind of trying to kind of go that way. Because like you said, in Demanufacture, there's like the riffs aside, like the industrial samples, the drum samples, and all those sub hits, and those, like, they were like layering that all over the place.
Yeah.
So I feel like to me, it is definitely industrial metal. I mean, if Strapping Young Lad is, then definitely Fear Factory is, you know, I think.
I agree. All right. Well, we did it. we got our 10. Yeah.
Thanks for having us on and stuff.
Yeah, it's fun.
We're all for it.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah.
Cool.
We love your channel, and this is super, super cool.
Yeah.
Just by the way.
Awesome. Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And for those of you watching, again, check out Warm Gadget. You can find their music on Bandcamp and various other platforms. And then check out my best new industrial bands list video and industrial metal tier list for even more on this topic. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus and Warm Gadget signing off, and we will see you in the trenches.